I learned over 100 knots, and I'm going to show you the 5 you'll use on a day-to-day basis, how to tie them, and how to use them. Most knots can be split into 3 families: the hitches, the bends, and the loops. And throughout this video, we're going to look at examples of all 3. And we're going to start big with the king of knots, this, which is not a bowline, but a bowline, because clearly whoever invented it wasn't as good at spelling. It's part of the loop family, which are just knots that are designed to create a loop somewhere along your line. And specifically for the bowline, you create a fixed loop so it doesn't change in size at the end of your rope. What's special about this knot is that it's so strong, and even after heavy loading, it's really easy to untie. To tie it, you're going to need to leave enough space for your desired loop size. Then you want to form a small loop on the standing end of the rope, which is the end of the rope you're not using to tie a knot. And then you want to take the working end of the rope, which is the end of the rope you are using to tie the knot, and you want to pass it through that loop. And then pass it behind the standing end, and then back through the small loop. And boom, you've got yourself a bowline. You should use this knot for whenever you want to attach a rope to something else securely. So if you want to attach a rope to a hammock to chill, or to a car to tow it, or to a lazy ass dog who doesn't want to go for a walk, then the bowline is the knot for you.
Come on, Nico. Come on.
And even if you don't want to attach a rope to something, you now have a rope with a fixed loop at the end, which is so useful. I mean, you can use the loop as a handle, you can pass the standing end through the loop to bundle things together. I mean, there's just a million uses for that. The second knot on our list is the alpine butterfly, which is nicknamed the queen of knots. The alpine butterfly is also a loop knot, but this time it creates a fixed knot in the middle of your rope. What sets this knot apart is that it looks like a No, but really, the great thing about this knot is you can put it in all 3 directions and it will not fail. And even after heavy loading, it's easy to untie. To tie this knot, you're going to have to wrap the rope around your hand twice so that there are 3 lines. Then take the middle line and pull it under the front one. Then bring it back down and pass it under the 2 other lines before you tighten everything up. And you've got yourself an alpine butterfly. This knot is super useful if you want to attach something to the middle of a rope. And if you make a lot of knots, you now have yourself a full hanging rack. Or if your highly specialized and very expensive rope gets damaged, you can isolate that damaged section so that the rope won't snap when it's loaded anymore. And like the bowline, you now have a rope with a fixed loop in the middle, which also has millions of uses. Now, we're going to look at another family of rope called the hitches. And for knot number 3, I've chosen the clove hitch, which is generally just a great all-rounder. Hitches are used to secure a rope around an object by tying themselves around it. And the object is essential because without it, the knot cannot be made. In particular, the clove hitch is super useful for temporary and non-critical applications because it may just be the easiest knot to tie, adjust, and untie. To tie it, all you need to do is to wrap the rope around the object and then wrap the rope around the object again, but this time coming back on the other side of the standing end, and then just pass the working end through the second loop and tighten to form your clove hitch. You can use it as a non-permanent solution to hang things up or keep things off the ground, or if you quickly need to tie something up to literally anything.
You're not going anywhere.
And you can even use it to bundle things up or build a shelter. I mean, it's just a great knot. However, you do have to be careful because if there's no tension on the lines, the knot can get loose and come undone. So using it for permanent or heavy loading situations is not recommended. The fourth knot is kind of a 2-in-1 knot, so you're getting a both. The base version of the knot is called the rolling hitch. This is a friction hitch, which means you can adjust the position of the knot without untying it. But when you put on the knot, it tightens itself around the object and locks its position in place. It's pretty handy on its own, but it becomes truly top tier when you tie the hitch on the standing end of its own rope to form the taut line hitch. And so now you have a loop that's adjustable, but it'll also keep its shape when it's been pulled on. To tie this knot, you need to make 2 loops around the object in the same direction. Then you need to make a third loop that comes back on the other side of the standing end. Then you need to feed the working end through the third loop and tighten. This is super useful if you need to loosen or tighten a rope without having to untie the knot. You can use it to set up guy lines on a tent, or tension a laundry line, or even fix loads down onto a vehicle. And it's also just useful if you need to fine-tune the length of the standing ends. So for example, if you're decorating and you want to change the height of a decoration, you can use a taut line. And for the 5th and final knot, I've got something from the bend family, the sheet bend. Bend knots are used to tie 2 ends of a rope together, whether they're from the same rope or different ropes. Usually, with bend knots, the 2 rope ends need to have a similar material and size for the knot to hold. The great thing about the sheet bend is you can use it to tie pretty much any 2 ropes together, regardless of size, material, or shape. To tie the sheet bend, you want to take your thicker rope and make a buy, which is just a U shape in the rope. Then, with the other rope, you want to pass it through the buy, wrap it round the back and back under itself to finish the knot. And for a more secure version of the knot, you just have to tie the smaller rope round the buy twice to create a double sheet bend. The uses for the sheet bend are pretty straightforward. If you need to make a rope longer, use a sheet bend. Or if for some reason you need to make a loop the size of the whole rope, then use the sheet bend on the 2 ends of the same rope. And another cool thing is you can even use this knot with things that aren't rope. So if you want to attach a rope to a tarp, you can use a sheet bend. Anyways, learning to tie knots is just such a useful skill. I mean, I feel like a little Boy Scout that's ready to take on adventure. I hope this video gets you to try out some knots, and if you do, let me know what you used and how you used it. That's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and hopefully I'll have something soon. Ciao!